All right, we are recording live. Welcome everybody to Building Bellingham, the Pivot Series. Thank you all for the Brady Bunch that has joined me here today. Some familiar faces here in the community. Thank you everybody for joining me. This series is about what we do to weatherproof our businesses, what we do to prepare for these times, and how we are using this as an opportunity to find the silver lining and continue moving forward. So Ben, you're in the upper left on my screen. I don't know how it aligns on everybody else's screen. Would you please introduce yourself, what you do, how you are involved in this community?
Ben Scholtz, owner of Mallard Ice Cream and Bantam Restaurant. Owner of Mallard for roughly 20 years. Bantam's been open for just under a year. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll start with that.
Good. All right. Jesse, I bet yours is going to be slightly longer.
Yeah, my name is Jesse Nelson. I'm part owner of Overflow Taps, a craft beer bar in Bellingham and Linden. We donate a portion of all of our sales to fund water projects in Africa. We do a lot of community events as well as that global cause as well. It's been open for about 4 years. 4.5 years we've been open. It's been quite a ride.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Wes, thanks for joining.
A pleasure. It's always fun to be here. Owner of the Woods Coffee, 19 locations from here to Bellevue in 4 different counties, and all kinds of great things that we've been accomplishing until we got our legs cut out from under us. But we're figuring out how to do our best with the less than normal flows that we usually have, and figuring out how to make it work.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And Guy.
Occhiogrosso, President and CEO of the Bellingham Regional Chamber of Commerce. Most people understand or have a concept of what a chamber is. It's basically a nonprofit membership organization for local businesses. The Bellingham Regional Chamber is about 550 members strong, serving the Bellingham region, which is essentially the county. I've been in this role for about 6 years. The organization has been around for about 120 years. I've been serving in similar roles for our county for about 14 years. So experiencing a few ups and downs, nothing ever quite like this, but have experienced a few system shocks through that time.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And Jack.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Jack Lamb. I'm the co-founder, CEO at Aslan Brewing Company. We've been chugging along for almost 6 years now. Our 6-year anniversary is about a month away. We now have 3 locations. We have the Aslan Depot, which opened a couple years ago, and then our location in the Seattle neighborhood of Fremont that we just opened in October. So that's a hell of a time, hell of a start of a line that we got. So we're still making beer, but it's been tough for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. And I think for all the viewers, that people can kind of tell every one of these people has one core piece to their business, and that's that, like, the gathering piece, right? It's you created a business to have people come gather at your business, to gather at your establishment. And there are other elements where they don't need to gather. There's takeout, there's distribution of your beer or of your ice cream or of the coffee or whatever it may be. But what has that been like? And feel free to jump in. No need to raise hands here. What has that been like for you guys, for being that center point for people to gather, that idea of gathering, and having to pivot from that to other modes of doing business?
Well, I can speak to some of that because we tend to have gathering throughout a day in any one of our stores, lots of meetings, and a great place for people to enjoy an environment. And we've had to, go to the limited part of our business, which is our drive-throughs. And thank goodness for our drive-throughs, because if we didn't have that, we would be down to almost nothing. But the drive-throughs have become that gathering place, and I like to say that cars are gathering one after another, and it's a good thing. We've been able to figure out how to make that work and how to make it work effectively. We have 14 of our 19 locations open, and the ones that are closed are the ones that don't have drive-through. And it became apparent early on that meeting in any way, shape, or form or coming into a store was not necessarily anybody's desire. So we have modified, and it seems to be working out okay. But yes, the gathering part is the part that most people talk about. All the stuff that I receive online are comments about, I can't wait to get back to being in the store regularly and meeting and doing the things that I normally do. So yes, it's definitely one of those things that is lost in our community, and we can only be isolated for so long before we have to get out and see those that we know and love.
Absolutely. Guy, what's been your experience with being a place where businesses gather?
Yeah, kind of in the nature of this series, right? Kind of the concept of pivoting is we as an organization, as a nonprofit, had to do that. Again, when you look at that kind of gathering, or the term we like to use is connect or connection. You can also use convening. It certainly feels a little different. It feels a lot like this. And again, part of that pivoting is for the last 20 years, one of the, I would say, iconic programs of the Chamber has been our networking breakfast. Many of you have attended over the years, and anywhere from 85 to 120 members gather, swap business cards, swap stories, meet each other and develop relationships. Happen once a month. Well, as of March, we weren't able to do that. So last week we tried a virtual Zoom call with 80 something registrations, and it was successful. And so we're looking at, kind of pivoting to virtual, which again, a lot of people are having to do to share their brand message, or to, I would say, create content or create those value deliverables. And when we think of the Chamber, the 4 value deliverables that we try to use are advocate, educate, connect, and promote. So those are what we bring to the table for our businesses. And so connection is definitely a big piece of that. And later this week, we're going to run a virtual happy hour, and going to try that, because again, our business community, just as the 6 of us need to connect and want to connect, we can still do that. And so we're pivoting with the technology that we have at our fingertips to be able to offer that service.
Yeah, understood. Yeah. And Jack, what about you? I mean, I know a big part of your business obviously is the locations, because you have food, you obviously have beer, but would you consider to be your production of beer kind of like Wes's drive-through? Do you think that's something that is super key? People are still buying beer. I'm still buying beer. I mean, in fact, that's sped up, I think, for some people.
Yeah.
What has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's, I mean, we literally built this place to be a community hub. You put it on the edge of a neighborhood and at the edge of a central business district, so that people can walk there, people can meet there. And, we had community tables, we have couches at the depot. We have, everything that we do is meant to be done together in a community. So it's insane. We had to just change what we do. The good thing is, so much of our beer goes out into the world and into grocery stores and whatnot, that, those sales are pretty steady. They're actually a little slower than they would be this time of year, but it is paying to keep people employed right now. I've had to lay off pretty much our entire retail staff, but we've maintained every single brewer, all our admin employees. I did have to let go one of our admin that has been working for us for over 5 years, because it was an event planning position, and quite frankly, there's no events to plan anymore. It's where we are now. So, the good thing is this Monday, we got granted and fully funded for the Paycheck Protection Program through the SBA and through Savvy Bank. Shout out to Savvy Bank, who just kicked butt for us and got us that so quick. So now we are basically giving every single employee the option to be employed 40 hours a week,
Amazing.
Starting on Saturday. And if they want to, stay off and stay on unemployment, because right now apparently you don't have, if you get even offered a job, you don't need to take it. So some people are choosing that, but a lot of people are really happy, and we're just creating a lot of homework for people. So I better have the smartest staff in the city when everything comes around, because we've given them hundreds of hours of resources for them to really come through and improve their knowledge, their skills, and whatnot. But boy, it's also just a question of what is normality going to look like? When is that going to happen in our organizations? And will things ever be the same? So it's tough.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. And Ben, we had talked a little bit before we had jumped on the call here about the way that you're paying your employees and the some of the silver linings and how you've been operating as a business. Tell me a little bit more about what that's been like for you with both of your locations there, both of your businesses.
Yeah, so for me, I think if you go back to like early March, my thought was, it felt like the situation was changing every day. The rate at which new information was coming out, I don't know, probably everyone can identify with that. There was a period of time where early on, where circumstances were changing really rapidly. It was hard to get clear information about what to do. And what I mean by what to do is not just like what to do to pivot and make sales a different way, but literally like what to do just to keep your staff safe and your customers safe. And when I look back at that time, I think, our approach was, rather than, I think there's different ways you could look at it as a business that has a huge public component, is you could take all the things you do and you could trim it down to the things that you think remain that are safe or acceptable or appropriate. We almost took like the step beyond that, which is to say, like, we're not going to do anything. We'll like take it to zero and then build back up and say, like, what can we have faith in that it's, safe and appropriate for everyone involved, which is our customers and our staff. And so to me, I think the first question was like, what's safe and responsible? And like listening to Jack talk about creating homework for his employees once they come full time, and we're thinking about that too, of how to use the time productively. But what I sense from that is a feeling of like, the appropriate thing isn't necessarily to throw a whole bunch of people into a workspace where they're all close contact with each other. The appropriate thing isn't necessarily to say, encourage as much, face-to-face contact between staff and customers as quickly as possible, even if you have the budget and the hours to put people on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Jesse, you're somebody that, you threw how many events last year?
A little over 100.
Was that too many or not enough, or what do you think?
It's too many. We did 120 events last year.
Yeah.
We also did have the help of an event planner as well. We ended up parting ways with our event planner sometime in November of last year. But a little bit different scenario, but I do understand what you're going through there, Jack. We're both very event dependent in a lot of ways. And a lot of our events are really built around how we can gather people together, and typically for some cause and some way to impact people's lives. And it's really unfortunate right now to not be able to use those events to be able to re-energize ourselves and our business and also our community, because I believe that bringing people together and being around people helps re-energize people. And it's been very sad, similar to Jack and probably similar to some of you guys. We also had to lay some people off. And we're really looking forward to getting the community back together. I think that's the part that's missing the most. I'm actually really looking forward to when this is all over and what's going to start happening with community, because I believe that this has given us a different perspective. It's given us maybe made us appreciate more some of the things that we now don't have, and being able to connect with people on more of a personal level, and so yeah, we also just this morning actually got approved for our PPP loan through WeCu, which was great. So I'm looking forward to how that works out and what we're going to do with that. I like what Jack said about paying the employees in that way. I'm probably going to call you after this, Jack, and have a conversation about that. But yeah, just trying to do what we can to stay connected to the community and make the changes we need in our business to stay afloat, so that we can be there on the other side and reconnect the community again.
Jesse,
Go ahead.
Jesse and Jack, are you doing any retail at all at this point?
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, we're doing curbside pickup. For the last 2 weeks, we stopped our food program.
Mm-hmm.
There's something hit at home with. I don't know if you heard the story of the owner of Pock Pock restaurants in Portland, but his co-owner got coronavirus and died, and he was working in the kitchen, and basically put out this message that even takeout food is the average kitchen is not prepared for this, nor is it large enough to have the correct social distancing or safety measures to be had. So during this peak of the pandemic in our state, we chose to shut down our food curbside pickup just for the safety of our employees.
Yeah,
I think food curbside is arguably safer than going to the grocery store, but I was more looking at the employees and the amount of contact that was happening within my own establishment. So right now we literally have one person in our giant restaurant sitting there waiting for beer orders to come in, and is just preparing and handing it off at this moment. So we're doing that there, and then as in Seattle, but the depot is fully shut down.
Yeah.
And we're doing we're also doing curbside service Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and people can order online, and then there's a pickup window that they can come pick up their beer, and that's owners doing that. So Adam and I, the only 2 employees left in the company, are working through those orders and processing those orders, and then handing them through our makeshift drive-through in the alley, which we're using as our curbside service. And we just implemented that maybe a couple weeks ago. We went about a week and a half where we were completely closed to try to really understand what we wanted to do or what the possibilities were. And we closed down for the very same reason that Jack mentioned, is really our staff weren't feeling safe. And this is before, a little bit before the lockdown, when we closed down completely. And we were feeling like maybe we were putting our staff in positions they didn't want to be in, and same for our customers. And so we built a plan for the curbside service, and that's the big change that we made. That's the retail we have going on now. And so our can sales have definitely picked up, that's for sure, but obviously draft is down.
Yeah.
What are some silver linings? I mean, we're talking about, Jesse, you and I have talked about a someday maybe list. Ray Deck, who was on the show, he talked a lot about a someday maybe list. And I know we all have them as business owners or connectors in our community. What have been some silver linings of projects that, like, working on your business, that you've had the ability to focus on now, that you've, like for Ben, you don't, there's no drive-through. It's so much of the experience of your businesses is being there. And we were just talking about that, like, the food's awesome and the ice cream's awesome, but part of it's just being there, right? And huge part. And so what has that been like for all of you in this pivot period to really focus in on those someday maybe projects? And what are some of those someday maybe projects that you've been working on?
Yeah, man, I think for Overflow, we're still so new, and we have a lot of processes and procedures that need to be refined and that even really need to be developed. And but they get put on the back burner a little bit as you're trying to focus on building a business, and so we've taken the time to really build upon our foundation that we think will help us grow in the future when this is all said and done. So that's creating a new process we've never had before, and looking at some of the older stuff and revamping that and just seeing where we are and where we want to be. And then we've done some projects in the space. We've always wanted an online store, and now we were forced to really create one. And within 48 hours, we had our online store up with all the beer and all the merch that we had. And so that's nice. I think that like the big picture silver lining here would be that that businesses are going to be much more prepared for something. I'm not going to say like this, but something like this for lack of a better term, something like this in the future. They're going to set the framework to be able to withstand this blow of something to this degree down the road. And there's something to be said about. I feel very, very sad in some ways, and I'm very empathetic to. There's just a lot of people who have been affected by this, and I think that that's just it's unrelated to the question, but I just wanted to point out that I really am empathetic to everyone who's been affected by this, and I do believe that it's gonna help me love people even more than I already do.
That's a big thing, because Jesse, you love people already.
No, I really do.
Can you love people more? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Wes, what about you? What are some silver linings for you that you found in all of this?
Well, having gone through 2008 and really learning a lot at that point, we were a young company in 2008, and we decided to really lean things out and make sure that we had our systems in place, that we were able to do things more efficiently, smarter, better, faster. And then during that time, we kind of took a different approach where everybody was pulling in. We were actually moving forward, and we opened 6 new stores in an 18-month period right around 2008. And taking the opportunity, I think that's a pivot right now of looking at opportunities and, how could you expand your business? Is it through acquisition? Is it through, various new ways of doing business? We had been working on a project for over a year to launch a subscription coffee program. And we it takes a lot of work, man, to build something that is going to handle things in an automated fashion. It takes a lot of back end work. So we've been working on it really diligently, and we put the pedal to the metal about 2 months ago to really get this thing launched, and we'll launch it this week. And it's just another, revenue source of being able to pivot into a different direction and doing something differently and more effectively while we're, in a position to have time to be able to do that. So that's worked out well for us. We've done a number of other projects of, cleaning out old equipment, selling off stuff we don't need or want, and just becoming, less encumbered with all that stuff that all of us have laying around.
Yeah. It's just like focusing on what's most important. It's weird.
Yeah.
We're forced into that position sometimes. Sometimes we need to be forced into that position. And yeah, Ben, what are your thoughts on some silver linings for you through all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that there's like a clear silver lining. I feel, I guess there's some things I feel fortunate for. I'll be interesting this makes me think I'd like to follow up with Jack after this conversation, because your experience at Seattle is kind of similar. Like, I've owned Mallard for 20 years, and I would say I've been had a pretty conservative approach to growth. And having opened a restaurant 10 months ago, like, I'm probably at the most financially extended and vulnerable point I've ever been in my adult life when this all happened. So, when the dust settles, I think we're going to be okay. So I would say, to me, part of the silver lining is that It is that the situation is salvageable. Feels like very fortunate. I think that with Mallard, we're probably going to get a wholesale license and figure out what it takes. There are some regulations specific to frozen desserts and ice cream that have to do with wholesale. So there's some additional challenges there, but which we've always known about. But I think this is sort of encouraging us to take that. We're taking the time to kind of figure out what it makes to have how to have a wholesale component of our business. So that will be, I think, interesting. I think with Bantam, 10 months into a restaurant, it was already felt like we'd been running a marathon for over a year. So, I mean, maybe a silver lining is that we all get to take a step back and just pause and be like, think and compose ourselves a little, because every single person involved in that project has gone through so much in the last year. And then I think the silver lining maybe is just to like reflect and reset our assumptions about relationships to other people, about what kind of world we live in, about what kind of world we want to have. And that's sort of like bigger than business, but just that we've all been shown a lot of things in the last couple of months that maybe reset our ideas of like what's possible, what's necessary, and what's expected. And I think that could be some big value out of that.
Absolutely. So actually taking some time now to take a deep breath is a huge silver lining for everybody on this call. I mean, when's the last time, for those of us that don't know how to plan vacations, I mean, when's the last time you even thought about a vacation besides a weekend getaway? I mean, like I'm going to go down to San Juan Island for 3 days. You know what I mean? So that's huge. You got to take time to really reevaluate which relationships in your life are most important, especially at home too. And we'll probably dive into that a little bit too. For Guy and Jack, like what are some silver linings for you, Guy?
Oh, well, I think you find, for me specifically with the chamber, I think there's silver linings for the chamber as an organization. But then again, as I said earlier, like every business is so different. And I look at the collection of most of you as being in kind of that restaurant, retail, service sector, is the pain points and the learning lessons are considerably different for that industry compared to, let's say, the lodging industry, which has officially been decimated through this, which is very different than manufacturer supply chain. Every business is a little bit different. I think everyone's silver lining will be a little bit different. I know for me is how I spend my time has changed, but the amount of meetings I don't think has. It's just changed the format. A lot of dialogue. Perhaps some of the silver linings that are broadly applied to everyone is what are those things that, and this speaks to efficiency, is what are those things that you've done that you just did because you did them, or you assume that you had to, whereas now you have this opportunity to pause and say, are those effective? Are those efficient? Are those needed? And I think we'll probably see some efficiency steps and efficiency metrics from a lot of different industries going forward to say, yeah, we had the opportunity to reevaluate and replan, whether that's through a layoff of a staff or a cancellation of an event, to say maybe those don't come back for various different reasons. And again, it's a function of efficiency and focus. And again, I can speak to me as the chamber and kind of what are some of those pieces that we're evaluating versus the dialogues that I've had with various businesses and various elected leaders and what they're seeing too. And again, I think it's a little bit different, but I think most of those silver linings will revolve around that efficiency and focus component. And then what some of you have already said is, I think my hope is we will become a more compassionate and empathetic community. both as Bellingham County, but also just global, right? Just understanding how to appreciate, respect, love, just be compassionate for other folks. So
Absolutely, that's huge. Jack, what about you?
I mean, honestly, I think everyone has really said what needs to be said, and just the idea of having time finally. We were in exponential growth for since the very beginning, and just last year was kind of the first year we got to kind of take a little bit of a breath as we decided not to brew more beer, or we decided to kind of be happy with what we had. Of course, we opened Seattle, but it was kind of like that was the final step of the whole thing, and it's just bizarre because I felt like we haven't taken a breath ever, and so we created habits, right? And as someone who touts itself to be a triple bottom line business, I think what was lost is, again, if every year you're adding more events, or every year you're adding another expectation, and you're expecting your same staff to get all that done and to get it done better and faster, I think what my greatest silver lining that I'm seeing is a reconsideration of what is fully necessary for our business. And in effect, what is then fully necessary for each employee to be doing. I had already shifted a couple of my full-time people to about 32, 34 hours a week without changing their pay, because I was realizing that they're getting better and better at their job anyway. They're getting the exact same stuff done they did the year before, but quicker. So instead of just adding more, it's like, well, take a little break. I mean, there's a lot of countries out there that are just working 30 hours a week, and that's plenty. I don't want to really work more than the 50 or more, that I am. So it's like right now, for a few weeks, I had everyone on shared work program and was working 20 to 30 hours a week. And I was seeing pretty much a lot of the same productivity. It was amazing, and I'm also seeing a lot of people being able to go outside and to, effectively work from home. So my silver lining is it's going to change my workplace. I think I'm going to come through this and realize that, let's look at a shorter work week. Let's look at not needing to be a slave to on-site operations. Let's kind of reconsider what it is to be a happy and productive employee. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's funny because I get to pay people now 40 hours a week. Well, I'm having an individual conversation with every one of them saying, no, I don't really work less, but I don't necessarily need you to literally be clocking 40 hours for this. There's just, we all need to be working on ourselves during this too, so we don't lose our minds. So, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely. And for other people that are out there that are running businesses, how important is that relationship with the people that work for you or with you? Building that relationship, maintaining that relationship, so when you get to these situations that they're part of that team. How and anyone can jump in on this because everyone can speak to this, but what is that relationship like, and why is it so important?
I think we're trying our best to stay in contact with our team members. I mean, everyone right now is still in their Slack channels, sending some DMs to some of them. And just trying to keep the morale high. I think we've always been a pretty decent place to work, and that our team likes to work at Overflow and likes to be a part of the team. But when you build a relationship that is founded upon transparency and trust, I think that you're going to come out on the end all right. And so I think our team's excited to get back to work. And they respect the transparency, as we talk with them about the PPP loan and all these different things going on. And the more we can communicate with them now, the more we can connect with them now, and show them that we care, because we truly do, not because we're trying to get some result out of it. The better off we'll all be.
Mm-hmm. And I would agree. I think in the dialogues that I have had with business owners, managers, leaders, is their team and their customers are that pivotal piece. I mean, we're such a, kind of a lot of the narrative that we've had in this meeting is that what I'm going to say communal, right? Like that in sense of community, that engagement, whether that community's, 30 people hanging out at Overflow Taps or, a Whatcom Young Professionals morning buzz meeting at Woods Coffee, whatever those engagement opportunities are, it's about people, right? And business leaders and managers and owners, your people outside of your family, and sometimes they are your family, is your management team, like your production team, but also your customers. And that's, I mean, as for small businesses, that is the business.
Absolutely. And for all of you, I know we talked a little bit about a pivot, and then we talked a little bit about a silver lining that we're finding in this, but how are you staying in contact with not only Jess, you talked about, modes of communication with your team, but what about your customers or the people that come back to your business all the time? How are you staying in touch with these people? How are you letting them know that you care about them and that you value them? What have been some ways that you've been making sure to stay in touch with people?
We've done a few things that are intentional to connect with community through social media predominantly. Last week we launched a bake your own monster cookie at home program where you come and pick up your own tube of cookie dough, all prepared with instructions, and then some coloring sheets that you can take home with your kids, and do a baking and coloring project together. So how do you do that effectively week after week is a challenge, right? But doing some little things, being creative, and the engagement level at the stores, with having the drive-throughs open, has really been interesting. We have seen a ton of those folks that come through the drive-throughs. We've seen a lot of new faces. This is the highlight of people's day. Like, I can get out and go get a coffee. And so that's been great for us. We love that. And, I think our staff just genuinely looks for that opportunity to engage with those folks, daily. And we have 350 employees, and we had to lay a lot of those off. We've maintained a ton of them as we can, and looking for better days, and how do you just work your way through, break even, try and get to that place where you can get on the other side and get back to maybe a different flow of business. I loved what Jack was saying about maybe reevaluate how you have done business in the past and take this opportunity to do it differently. And then to Jesse's point of saying, this is all about how do we engage with folks in a different way? How do we, treat them differently? How do we look at that? Just because we all have those feelings, right? We all have those feelings of like, this is different, and we can't just come out of this in the same way we've done things before, and we have to be more caring for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben, when you said you just completely shut down operations, which I'm trying to imagine what it must be like to be, obviously Mallard's very well established. Bantam is, from what I imagine, every time I'm in there, it's awesome, but it's always packed. We're always trying to figure out how we can get up to that bar area upstairs because it's just an awesome setting up there. And but the question is, for you, how do you prepare yourself and weatherproof your business so that you have the ability to say, well, the best possible thing I can do is shut this down? And in order to do that, you have to have done some weatherproofing to your business. For people that are listening, what do you do to weatherproof your business to be able to do that?
Well, I'm not sure we've done. It's perfectly weatherproofed, So, and I guess I would say, so currently Mallard, like Bantam, is not doing any I mean, there's not any work happening there, but there is conversation with the kitchen about reopening for to-go. Another possibility I think you just think about every possible, like what are the advantages or resources that you have. And so we've also thought about maybe we're already selling a little bit of ice cream pints and half gallons on a sort of appointment basis, because that seemed like the safest way to bring customers in, so you can place an online order and schedule a time to come get it. So I think one possible next step for Bantam is maybe producing like take and bake meals, and we could even just sell those right along with your ice cream. So in other words, we don't have to create any point of contact for our Bantam staff. We could have 1 or 2 people. I think, like, you know, Jack was saying, create lots of space in the safest. This is kind of off your question, by the way.
Well,
weatherproofing. You know, the safest thing is to have one person working alone in a kitchen right now, right? Or 0. I mean, aside from nobody working. So I was responding to the totally shut down. The idea was to take it to 0. And I would say the thing that is true is that every step we've taken represents the will, desire, and preferences of management. So nobody who's a management employee has been asked to do anything in terms of adding operations back in that they're not comfortable with and behind. And I think and then secondly, by taking it to 0, then you just kind of get to build on something. Like, I feel like that the pickup program we have at Mallard is really as safe as we could possibly make it. And by starting small and having a chance to really focus on every single transaction and say, like we were saying, we're going to schedule an appointment for pick it up, and we're going to schedule people 10 minutes apart so that you're not coming to pick up ice cream when there's another customer coming to pick up ice cream, right? So we're just sort of saying, what's the ideal system that we can build in? And we're encouraging people to buy, if you're coming down to get pints, buy 5 or 6 pints. Come down once a week or twice a month rather than every day to get an ice cream cone. So I think that it wasn't so much a question of that we had the capacity to shut down operations. It was like we felt ethically and in terms of being aware of what we were doing, that was the ethical choice for our staff and our customers. But then to build back, start to add processes back in, but making them completely different. I mean, our process for selling ice cream is so unrelated to any way we've ever sold ice cream before. But we're building that back in slowly, and I think making sure that every single person involved as an employee is comfortable and on board, and that their safety is really taken into consideration and built into every single step we have. So that's kind of my thought. I haven't really thought, I mean, to be honest, like there was a point where at some point I was just like, there are some numbers out there in terms of the financial impact of this event. And at a certain point, I was just like, those are just numbers on paper right now. And they're going to matter in a month. They're going to matter in 6 months or a year. I'm not going to add to them. I'm going to try to make smart decisions and, be healthy as a business in every possible sense of the word. But at a certain point, it's like, those numbers are not going to change. Being closed a day or a week is not going to change that number 6 months from now, a year from now. Focusing on, really concrete steps and letting that, just kind of putting that aside a little bit, because it's going to be there in a month or a year anyway, regardless. So
focusing on day by day, what you can do today to impact whatever it is that you have control over in your vicinity, what you can do. Yeah, that's all about mindset. Let's talk a little bit about mindset.
I'll say one other thing too, which is that Mallard is such a seasonal business, right? So I think also for us, there was this feeling of, we do like 80% of our business between June and September, right? Because we're an ice cream shop. So I think there was also this sense of like, when all this stuff was happening in March, I think that added to the feeling of like, there's not this huge rush, because we'd rather set ourselves up in a position to be thinking like, what are we going to be wanting to do in 3 months from now? Because that's our busy time anyway. And I don't think our busy time is going to be normal. Yeah, but I think that in terms of your original question, why the choice to shut things down and rebuild, I think that's also influenced by being a seasonal business in the middle of your slow time. It kind of gives you another incentive to just say, let's be really smart about everything we do and think about where we want to be 3 or 4 months from now rather than today. So anyway, that's that.
It came at it, to be, completely open about it, it came at a pretty decent time. If it were to come 3 months down the road, that's a different story. And not to say that it's a good time, but it's just not as bad of a time as it could have been, right?
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear about Jack in Seattle. I think it was really tough to be 10 months into a new restaurant. Like, that was just heartbreaking, but again, you can't, it's out of your hands anyway. So you just kind of, at some point but we were talking about, Jesse was saying having empathy for how people are impacted. And I think for the staff, especially at Bantam, who had just worked to exhaustion to try to get that restaurant established, I mean, it's heartbreaking for the individuals involved in that. Aside of everything, I guess my point is and I think to speak to what Jesse's saying, that's just one tiny little human experience within a sea of similar human experiences. But to represent that project, I just, it's how hard, how much investment of energy, how much all the people in that project stretched themselves, and just how devastating it was to realize that however it turns out in the future, it wasn't going to turn out the way that any of us expected. Yeah, so there's a lot of, I think it's important not to discount those emotions. Oftentimes you can't see how emotions translate into business decisions or whatever, in terms of here's an opportunity to expand, or here's an opportunity to capture a market. But I think that in a situation like this, the emotions that people went through are just as valid as the financial impacts.
Very well said. Very well said.
And Jack, tell us about, are you in Fremont
right now?
Yeah, sorry, not physically right now, but the new location that Ben was alluding to down in Seattle, that's in Fremont, right?
Yeah, it's right on 36th and Finney. We share the same building as Revel, and across from, we're neighbors with Brower's Cafe, Attaball, with the Nectar Lounge right across the street from. So, that whole area has just been, has just been totally wrecked. Brower's shut down and hasn't opened. And so, yeah, it's pretty brutal down there.
Yeah. And how, this is the first year, or you're within the first year of opening that?
Yeah, we opened in October. So, this is the, arguably the second season of the year. This is, barely 6 months, just over 6 into this. So it's brutal, man, because your momentum just got swept out from under you. Any momentum you had, we opened the side room, the building is just getting better and better. We're the first tenant to open in that building, and it's just been a construction zone, and it's now not, but now no one's in it, and so it's really sad because we had something awesome going, and hopefully that momentum we don't know what momentum looks like anymore. I think people are going to be very scared to jump in and sit next to a stranger again for a while. So it's brutal. The good thing is it was just far enough after we opened where kind of all the one-time costs and all the, the electrician that I said, hey, can I have a, net 120-day payment schedule on this thing, that all those things finally were done, because I can't imagine, and I actually know a few business owners in Seattle who were about a month in. And my best friend who's opening the little shop right on the other side of the pass-through window from me in Fremont was just about to open. And he's actually really lucky because he didn't have to start with any of the costs yet, and the landlord was nice enough to, not start rent, and is actually not going to start rent until 60 days after They're granted even the ability to open. So, I mean, there's this whole like, again, and this whole idea of, one, it could be worse for anyone. Two, we are lucky to be where we are, quite frankly. And, at this point, starting on Thursday, we were just doing 4 days a week for retail. We're going to be able to open up every day down there and safely do curbside. So no one's even walking into the store anymore. I mean, we're doing everything, walk to your car with a mask and gloves and, keeping it as safe as possible. So, yeah, that's where we're at with that.
One thing that I'm really noticing with everybody on this call is a mindset, maintaining a mindset of abundance, even in a time of what feels like, scarcity. We feel like we're all kind of reduced to our caves, our home caves, and, we can't go out and see people. Tell me a little bit more about, and Wes, you and I have talked a little bit about this, and Jesse, you and I have talked a lot about this, but how do you maintain a mindset of abundance or giving in a time where we start to have our own survival kind of retracted, and we kind of feel like we have to like put the stake in the ground, and like everyone needs to stand outside their house and protect their house. That's, obviously it's an exaggeration, but how do we maintain that? Because I feel very grateful and lucky to have an opportunity to be able to give right now, and to be able to give people voices, or to be able to give money, or to be able to contribute to local businesses more than ever. What is that like? How do you maintain that? Maybe Wes, if you want to start that off, since we've talked about that, what is that? How do you maintain that?
All right, I'm back on. Yes, that's a huge part of what we do. And by the way, to piggyback on what Jack and Ben have both said, we have one store that we opened exactly 1 year ago, and we have another store that we opened in February. So I understand the whole startup aspect of how any business that starts up right now is impacted, and it's brutal. I can't even fathom what it would be like to be in hospitality right now, and having everything on the line and ready to open, or had just opened and just barely gotten started, and then get your legs cut out from under you. It's tough. And for those businesses that are still operational like that, it's going back and saying, what can we do to bless them? Can we do more takeout? Can we buy gift cards? What are the things that we can do that will generate some amount of cash flow? Because that's ultimately what's going to save most of these businesses is, a government intervention, people in the community doing their part. And then, that should be helpful. One of the big things that we've launched, that we started about a month ago, which was we're serving for free anyone who's in the healthcare industry. And so when they come into the store, we're just saying, hey, this is on us. And our guests said, hey, how can we participate? So now we have a card in every one of our stores where anybody that comes into our store can say, can I load some money onto this card? I want to be a part of this. And, like I saw 40 drinks go out the other night to, the ER staff at Peace Health. And, just the little things that will bring a smile to somebody's face, doing things that are impactful to these people that are on the front lines, I think is just amazing. And I think we need to be, really leading that charge as business leaders in our community of going out and doing the things that will bless others. And ultimately, there are a lot of people who are a lot worse off than we are. And we need to consider them and assist them in any way we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jesse, your whole business model it's structured around the idea of giving, and you obviously have maintained that. But what locally, how have you been able to stay in that abundance mindset and still focus on the community and giving back?
Yeah, I think that if you have, like for me, I have a heart of giving already. And so I always just want to give. And some people don't necessarily have that, and that's okay. So for me, it's like as soon as we shut our doors down, it's like, well, what can we do at this time that we have to impact someone in a positive way? So it's thinking of what we can do to impact people. And so one of the things we came up with was the tip jar. And so people in the service industry could go on this document and put where they worked and their name and their Venmo account. And then if they spread the word, or the business spreads the word, then their customers could tip them via their Venmo account, right? And so that's kind of one thing that we thought of right off the bat. But and then kind of what Wes was saying about really, when I run into someone, like if I'm walking and I see someone on the path, even though you've got to keep your distance, it's like, how can I positively impact this person right now? Or like at the Woods Coffee drive-through window, the barista that's slanging the coffee and wiping down the cards and has her gloves on and like doing her thing. And how can I impact that person in a positive way? What can I give of myself to help that person along the way and make them feel better about the situation, any situation that they might be in? So I think it's just looking for ways to give in this scenario that we're in, if you have a giving heart. And it's just kind of it's like a fuel, and it's just it feels sometimes like it never runs out. And this is somewhat exhausting. I'm a super optimistic mindset, right? But it does suck the business not to be bringing any very much revenue and just barely staying alive. It's very unfortunate that we had to let our staff go and that we can't connect with our customers. But all I can really do is focus on what I can control, and then give in any opportunity that I can see where I can give.
Absolutely. And also the concept of giving grace to people, because people, again, like, we've all talked about people, we don't know what people are going through right now. We don't know how people have it. Everything's relative too, right? It's all relative to our mindset and what reality is, and all of so many variables that we just really have to give people grace right now. So yeah, no. And so before we kind of wrap everything up, is there anything else anyone would like to say? Because, we're coming up on about an hour and 15 minutes now on the call. Really appreciate everyone's time. Anything else, any messages anyone would like to send out, like how we can find you? How can we go pick up some coffee? Aslan, I know we can go through the drive-through, Wes. How can we go get ice cream? When's Bantam opening up for oh, I'm so excited. Please tell me soon.
Chicken.
Yeah. And so tell me, what can we do, or where can people find you? What's the best way for people to continue to support your businesses in this time?
Yeah, Ben, I'd love to hear from you, Ben. I just went on your website while we're talking, and I don't see a way to, order my pints.
Yeah, I think I'll double check that. I think it's on the website somewhere. We've been mostly communicating through our Facebook page, and we've got a Square store, the link on our Facebook page.
Great.
But I would say at this point, the most reliable communication updates are going to be on the Mallard Ice Cream Facebook page.
Awesome. Okay. And then also, if we keep tuned in to Bantam as well, so if we want our fried chicken fix and we want our ice cream, will that be a message that will be coming out here shortly, whether that will be happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the decisions are going to be made along with our chef and our kitchen crew driving the decision, because partially I think right now back of house is a more viable role than front of house in terms of like sit down restaurant type thing. So that's we can't, our servers can do things, but we're not going to be serving people in the restaurant optimizing their skill set, right? So the skill set that is more relevant in a restaurant like ours is the kitchen. So they're really driving those decisions. And I would say, if I would want people to know something about Bantam, I would just say that our decisions reflect the desires of the staff. And I think that when you were talking about, I think that's always an important time, but I think this is an extra important time, to let, to not put people into situations that they aren't comfortable with and having a role in choosing, right? That being said, I think we are definitely, what I would say is that with our staff, there's a real enthusiasm to reopen at some point. So Bantam will be back at some point. That's what I would say right now.
Well, I will not hold you to anything, but I will have, the midnight dream of fried chicken. I love fried chicken.
Yeah.
You're not alone. Leo, I have another call I need to jump to. Thank you so much for hosting. Gentlemen, thank you for sharing your insights and leadership. This community needs all of you, and we look forward to supporting you and being an agency to uplift, support, promote, advocate for our business community. The best way to get in touch with me, guy@bellingham.com. And again, just so thankful to share the space with all of you. Thanks for your time. Sorry I have to bounce out a little bit early. And I look forward to seeing all of you very, very soon in your associate establishment. So
thanks, guys. Take care. Thanks for joining us. So, and then just to kind of wrap up, obviously, Wes, there will be the online subscription component, sorry. And then there will be obviously the drive-through. Any other ways to support Woods at this time?
I think that's about it. The subscription stuff will be on our website by the end of the week, and it'll be really fun to launch that. In fact, the benefit of that is for 99 cents, you can get your first bag of coffee free. And that's going to be a huge hit. We have never seen people ordering coffee like they are ordering now, whole bean to brew in their own homes. And we've never had anyone, ask us, how can I get 5 pounds of coffee? And now they're ordering big 5-pound bags of coffee. And it's been an interesting time for sure.
Awesome. And Jack, besides, the curbside pickup, how can people support Aslan? How can they continue to purchase beer, whether it's growlers, cans? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the best way is, online ordering, curbside pickup at both the Brew Pub on Forest, downtown Bellingham, and then starting tomorrow, 7 days a week in Fremont, in Seattle. That comes directly to us. So that's the best way to support. Gift cards, our online shop is still open, so you can get merch and gift cards and all that wonderful stuff that you can continue to share, spread the love. Our food program will come up again on Earth Day on Wednesday. And, we've spent the last couple of weeks figuring out how to do this in the safest fashion. And I think we have a good plan to make sure that, again, no one's coming in the building. We're able to do all this on curbside and complete that. So food next week if you're hungry. And then I guess my final thing is, I think what's going to help us all is keeping communication with your community. You got to stay engaged. I think the worst thing that can happen is for people to fall off the map and maybe your friends or family to disengage and to lose touch. I honestly think that, I email my staff every 2 days, all 93 of them that were on payroll and everyone every 2 days, no matter what, if I have an update or not. And it's really, I'd say half of it is just me sharing a good song or, talking about the sun and, getting creative with activities that we can do in isolation and all that stuff. So I think the greatest thing we can do is stay optimistic, stay home. When you do go support, try and do it all in one go. As Ben was suggesting, don't just get one 6-pack, maybe get a whole flat that'll last you a couple weeks. So, or a couple days, whatever you're having. No, seriously, you can always just go on Instagram on aslanbrewing.com and see what we're doing. And in the meantime, just be nice to each other.
Yeah. That's huge. That's pretty important.
Yeah.
Turns
out
really important. Yeah. Jesse, what about you?
Jack, you summed that up really, really well. We've drive-through, curbside pickup. I don't really know if technically drive-through is legal, but curbside pickup Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. You order online, it'll tell you when your pickup window is. And then we've got some merch on there. Gift cards are available on our Instagram account, which they just turned that on like within the last like 24 to 48 hours. So if any of you guys haven't seen that, you can add gift cards to your Instagram profile, especially if you have a Square store. Yeah, just supporting us by buying beer from us when you can, or buying some merch, or, it's weird. We're not a huge call to action company, we really focus on the giving. And so it's sometimes even hard for me to say this right now, but now is a great time to buy something from Overflow Taps. And we would appreciate your support. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining. I know, like I said, we have a lot going on. Maybe it's up here, maybe it's in our world, whatever it is, but I really appreciate everyone tuning in. It's great to meet both Jack and Ben, and see Wes and Jesse again, obviously. And looking forward to staying in touch with you guys. And I love what all of you guys are doing so much. And I appreciate you guys just having that mindset of being nice to people and treating people well, and just let's keep that ripple going with other businesses. And yeah, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on to the Building Bellingham Pivot Series.
Thanks a lot, Leo.
Yeah, outer space. See you guys.